Welcome to Oh Hell No with Nicole.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Oh Hell No. Today I have a guest with me. Her name is Tami Reeves. She is a pediatric nurse and now an author, and she wrote this great book that we're going to get into. And I just like to say welcome, Tami, and thank you for, giving Oh Hell No this interview.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited. I read your book and it was so interesting. So,
thank you.
Yeah. So, let's get into it. So, this book is about, finding the love of your life, who was going through some trying times dealing with, his wife having Alzheimer's. And this is such an interesting topic to me because I recently found out that my dad has Alzheimer's. And
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. Yes. And, his wife is taking care of him. And, it's very challenging. And I also have another family member who's going through this very same thing. So that's why I found this to be so interesting and, informative. So.
Oh, well, great.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. So I'm going to start, I'm going to take this back a little bit. So your story, you're a mom, you were married, and you got divorced, and, you're going through your life, and then you find the love of your life. But I want to talk first about your first marriage, because you said some things in the book that was very interesting to me, and I just wanted to kind of delve into that. So you talked about your first marriage. There was something missing in that marriage for you, that you guys weren't satisfied emotionally and spiritually, and I just kind of wanted to talk to you about that. Like, what did you ever really figure out what was missing from that first marriage?
I don't know that I can put my finger on one thing, but we were our first loves for each of us, and we had known each other since, like I said in the book, since we were children.
Right.
And I just kind of grew up wanting to marry him because I just thought he was just so cute with his blonde hair and blue eyes. And yeah, I know that sounds funny, but I just wanted to marry him my whole life. And then we started going steady when I was 14 and he was 16, and we got married I was right out of high school. We got married. So I think we just got married way too young. And I think being each other's first love, we had premarital sex. And so I think that you kind of mess things up when you do that because you think you're in love, because you're too young. We were too young.
Right.
And you think you're in love because you have sex. And so I just think we married for the wrong reasons. Yeah, we loved each other, but I don't think at the capacity that men and women usually fall in love with each other. I think it was convenient. I think our families wanted it. We had such similar backgrounds. Both of our parents were deaf. All four of our parents were deaf. So I think that it just we kind of fell into it. One of us wanted it when I was 8.
Right.
I just kind of followed it through, and today we're still great friends. He just recently got married, and we're going to have dinner with them when we're visiting, so we're great friends, and that's probably how it should have been.
Yes, and I love that about your story. Like, throughout the whole book, I love that you guys really loved each other as just people. And, when you guys went through the counseling and then you decided, okay, look, we're going to just get divorced, and just how you amicably came to that decision, and, your father-in-law and how everybody took the news. I just loved it. It was beautiful. But...
Thank
you. But why do you think it was so hard for your kids? I mean, even considering how, everyone was like, we're still a family. We're still going to, take care of each other, but we're just not going to be together anymore. Why do you think it was so difficult for them?
I think because the word divorce just does that to kids. My parents divorced after 20-something years of marriage, and they fought the whole time. And you would think that kids would be like, oh, yay, let's get this over with. But we didn't want it either. Tim is my ex-husband, he and I never fought. And from the outside looking in, everybody thought we had the perfect marriage.
Right.
We were very affectionate with each other. We were always with each other. But, something was missing, and that's why it just kind of fizzled. It fizzled for a long time, and it took a while for us to finally throw the towel in.
Yeah, I totally understand. And I think that's good that you realize that. And because a lot of people settle and just stay in these relationships where they're not truly fulfilled and happy. And then that's just a disaster for everyone.
Right, exactly. I agree.
Yeah.
And I know that not everybody's divorce can end so amicably, because a lot of times a divorce happens because somebody may have cheated on somebody or whatever. And so there's a lot of times there's anger.
Right.
But if you separate, at least realizing you had a life with this person, and if you have children, it's even more important to realize, we had a family together, and the family should always be first, regardless of whatever else you're going through.
Right, absolutely. I agree. So when you first met Eric and you guys had that first date and he told you about his wife's situation, what went through your mind, like at that very moment when he just told you everything?
I just started crying. I mean, my tears welled up. I just got so emotional and just felt so bad for him. And not to sound corny, but my heart was bleeding for this man. And I was just, I couldn't believe that here he was sitting here telling me everything. And it was so painful to watch. I don't think I really gave it much more thought than just, I need to comfort this man. I need to make him not so sad.
Yeah. Just reading the stuff that his wife went through when she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and to talk about diagnosis, I didn't know that there wasn't any real way to diagnose Alzheimer's besides just a couple of psychological tests, and that they really can say for sure after you're gone that in fact you did have Alzheimer's.
Right. It has to be post-mortem. I mean, they can see plaques in the brain, and they can tell Lewy dementia is another form of it. And there's certain things key factors that they can see to tell them what it is, that it's probably Alzheimer's. I mean, they weed out everything else, I know that Gay went through test after test after test, like Lyme disease. They want to make sure she didn't have an old Lyme disease.
Right.
So they can only, weed things out, and then they're left with probable, and hers was probable early onset.
Yes, because she was 49?
48 when she was diagnosed, but she had been showing signs and symptoms long before that.
Really?
Yeah, her daughter told me a while back that she remembers being a child in the car, and her mom would get lost. They lived in a small town, and she'd get lost driving home. And her mother told me once that she seemed different even as a child. She just thought it was her character. But Eric told me she couldn't even balance a checkbook when they first got married.
Wow.
And there were a lot of people can't do that. But there were a lot of things that he had to take care of because she just couldn't do it.
Right.
But then as she got older and into her 40s, she kept forgetting passwords, like I wrote in the book. She kept forgetting her password at work. And so it just seemed kind of odd that such a young person would have so many difficulties. And then when they moved over here to Germany, when he was a civil servant for the Air Force, she cried all the time, and she was depressed. And so the base doctors couldn't, they're used to seeing younger patients, and they don't know Alzheimer's. They don't see Alzheimer's in their population very often. So they just thought she had depression, and they thought it was because she was menopausal or she missed her kids. So she was she was sick for quite a while before they finally got that diagnosis.
Yeah, that was so sad. And just reading about, like you said, the crying and the different things that was happening, that was like alarming for me. I was like getting nervous. Like I was like, oh, hell no. I mean, like, oh my God. Because sometimes I forget stuff and I'm like, geez, like this is scary,
Yeah. And I think that we all do that. You walk into a room and you're like, I just knew what I was going to get. And then you forget. And so you think, okay, no, wait, is this dementia or is this just forgetfulness? So, yeah, I'm with you on that. That is scary.
Yeah, definitely. So when you first met him and he told you, you cried and everything, did you ever think like, no, this is too much, like I can't? Or was your attraction to him and, what you felt for him, was that more overwhelming than the news about what was going on in his life and what you would possibly be getting yourself involved in?
Well, I didn't give it that much thought, but I do know I'm a nurse, and I believe you don't choose to be a nurse. I think that you were chosen to be a nurse. And so that's just my nature, to run to the beck and call of anyone who needs it. And so to see him in this way, yes, when I first met him, I thought he was extremely attractive. I was attracted to him, but that probably pulled on some emotional and psychological strings that kind of hooked me in anyway. But I remember thinking that evening, before I met up with him again that evening, but I remember thinking before that, I needed to be careful. I do remember thinking that, because I thought, don't be a nurse, be a human being for once, and don't try to keep yourself separate, which is very difficult to do because I've just kind of been this way my whole life. So I didn't give it any thought as to how our lives would be. I just didn't think that far in advance. I just always kind of lived by the seat of my pants anyway. So I don't think, if I would have given it some thought, I probably would have run fast the other way.
Yeah, because usually, you meet a guy and they say, I'm married. You're like, you jerk, I'm out of here, or whatever. But then he's like, I'm married, but, this is the situation. Yeah. And, a lot of people don't think about it. But I mean, honestly, when you're married to someone and they are, diagnosed with any kind of mental illness or, situation that just, they're not, they're not the same person. It's like, you're not really married anymore. I mean, technically, legally you are by papers, but I mean, who are you married to?
Right.
So
exactly. Yeah.
That's why this book, it's amazing. It's really a great story, and I like that you wrote this book. It's just interesting.
Oh, thank you. And I wanted to explain, a lot of people don't understand, you've read the book, so you read the preface, but a lot of people don't understand the words bleeding hearts. And they were one of Gay's favorite flowers. Yes. And I don't know if a lot of people know what those flowers are, but they're the ones that they have the stem and the little heart-shaped flowers that hang from it. But when I wrote the book, because I had originally journaled, and then one day was reading over it after Gay had died, and I thought, this might be able to help somebody. And so I decided to try and turn it into a book. I'm not a writer, at least I wasn't then, and thought, I don't know if I can do this. But I remember thinking about, just out of the blue, her favorite flowers. So I thought, what would I name this book? And the Bleeding Hearts came to mind. And I said, oh, that makes so much sense, because it's just such a metaphor for everybody's heart, how sad you are. Because they all had to say goodbye to Gay well before she ever died, because she was gone.
Yeah.
She was fading fast. And so, like her daughter told me, I told my mom goodbye a long time ago, and she did, and so when her mom passed away, yes, she was sad, but it was more of a, like the book says, sigh of relief, because she's now out of that horrific body, and is where we all go, wherever that is.
Yes, I love the title. I didn't know that Bleeding Hearts was a flower until I read this book. So that's great information.
A lot of people know.
Yeah. So, and that was perfect. So when you, in the book, you talk about going to, you and Eric get into a whole relationship. You guys definitely love each other. You're supportive of each other. And then you decide that you're going to start visiting Gay because, he's been kind of slipping with the visiting and whatever. And you just want to pick it up a little bit. So what was that like visiting her? She's not going to know who you are. Did she think you were a nurse or something? Like, what was that?
She didn't know anybody, and she didn't know anything. When I first met her, like I described in the book, she was sitting in a wheelchair, and if she recognized Eric, it was you couldn't tell. She didn't know anybody. She just sat there, and she was nonverbal. She couldn't walk, so she just wasn't even there. And so when I had met Eric, he wasn't visiting her as much as he had in the past. Mm-hmm. And her daughter, her son, family members just couldn't bear it anymore because, like I said, they had to say goodbye. And to see her like that wasn't Gay. So I just decided, to make sure she was taken care of. And I didn't want her, because, what we do know of Alzheimer's, what we think we know of Alzheimer's is we're not there. But what if we are in some capacity? Mm-hmm. And I didn't want her, if that were to happen, I didn't want her to think she'd be completely abandoned, because she wasn't. She would get visits, from family members from time to time, and from Eric, of course. Mm-hmm. But I just didn't want her to feel completely abandoned. So, like I said, I wanted to make sure she was taken care of. Then when she was bedridden, I came a little bit, not as often, because she was always asleep. Every time I came, she'd be asleep. Mm-hmm. And so I would come and, like I described in the book, I would just come and talk to her about her kids, her grandkids, right, what they were doing, and things like that. And that is partly the nurse in me, but that's the reason why I became a nurse. I became a nurse later in life, mm-hmm. But that's why I became a nurse. That's just who I am. I'm a caretaker. It's just what I do. And knowing that I would hope somebody would visit me in the same capacity, and that's why I did it.
Right. The question that I wanted to bring up too is a lot of times when people, get Alzheimer's and stuff, their family is so opposed to putting them in a facility, even though taking care of them at home is it drives them insane and it's almost impossible, but they still, don't want to put their loved ones in a facility. And I don't know, do you understand why that is? Just reading, Eric trying to be at work, but she's home, and then having even the caretakers that he hired, they quit, because it was difficult. And then her daughter tried, and, finally, thank God, they decided we can't do this. But a lot of people that I know, they try to, take this on, and I just don't understand it. I know it's your loved one and you feel bad, but why do you think, that people don't just let the professionals handle it, especially because the person is not there and it's so dangerous, Yeah.
No, yeah, I'm following you. I get what you're saying. It's just I think it's so difficult to let go because you've lost the person who they were. And so if you still have their body, mm-hmm. You think you still have part of them. That's the only thing I can come up with. Yeah. It feels psychological and emotional. It's like, okay, well, your mind might be gone, but you are still here with me, and I am still going to take care of you. God bless them. People do that to their own demise,
Right.
And Eric tried to do it as long as he could. And, it was finally that day when Gay wouldn't even let him back in the house after work because she didn't trust him. So, so that is a difficult bridge to cross. And once you cross it, there's no going back over. So it was very, very much time for her to be in a home. And I praise anybody for the patience of having an Alzheimer's patient or somebody with dementia at home, because it's a lot of work, physical emotional and mental work to take care of those people.
Yes, it is. My sister is a nurse too, and she says whenever she gets put on the dementia unit, or she just does not like have a good day. She says it's not.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's
It takes
really
a lot
difficult.
of you. Even a nurse, even a nurse, it's hard work,
Yeah.
and that's what you do all day, and that's taxing on anybody.
Right.
Like I said, God bless people who want to do it, but
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a tough job. It's very difficult. But another thing that she did say to me too, is that she has noticed that there are patients on that floor who come in and they meet and they like have their own little love story going on. So,
Yeah.
even though like they're married or whatever, and she said the spouse of the person who has the Alzheimer's will come in and they'll know that that's their little boyfriend over there or girlfriend, and it's just love. It's just whatever, because honestly, what can you do? This person doesn't even know you anymore. So
Yeah.
that was really interesting.
And that's the thing, it's what you need to do in the time that you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way it needs to be.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I wrote the book was, the ironic thing is, and I'm going to take this on a little bit of a different tangent. The ironic thing about writing this book was, when I first decided to write the book, I wrote the first few chapters, and I first wanted to get a ghostwriter or get somebody to help me with this because I just didn't think I could write.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found a woman online who was a several-time published author,
Mm-hmm.
and she had a website that called Helping You Get Published.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent her an email, and I said, can you look at what I've written and tell me if I'm wasting my time? And so she emailed me back, and she said, yeah, my fee is this, and give me 2 weeks, and I'll get back to you. And I said, okay. So I kid you not, 2 days later, she says, I'm waiving the fee. You are a storyteller. You finish this book, and I'll edit it for you. And the reason why she loved the book, she loved what I'd written so far, but she also, her father-in-law her mother-in-law had Alzheimer's, and she was in the nursing home, and her father-in-law had a girlfriend on the side, whose husband also had Alzheimer's, and so that's why she felt so passionately about this. So it's like whatever you need to do to get yourself through something, if you're not hurting anybody,
right,
then you need to do it.
Yeah. So back to your story, I wanted to ask you about stepping in, and I don't want to say it like this because I don't want it to sound like you were stepping into anyone's life, but just
that's right.
coming in and being, Eric's new love, and meeting his family and meeting friends that he shared with Gay. How did that feel for you? How was that? Was it like uncomfortable at first and then it became comfortable, or, how does that whole thing feel? I'm just going to let you explain it.
Well, yeah, like I wrote in the book, Melanie, his daughter,
Mm-hmm.
is the one who encouraged him the most to move on. And so she was very anxious to meet me for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And she had made her mind up that she was not going to like me. She wore her mom's perfume and her mom's coat.
I know, that was so funny.
And so I was nervous, but I think I would have been nervous even if Gay wasn't in the picture. I think it's just kind of, you want to make a good first impression, and her boys were teenage boys, like early teens,
Mm-hmm.
and I hit it off with them because I'm a pediatric nurse. It's partly because of that, but I hit it off with them, and so she instantly liked me, and her brother was Eric's son was a little bit more difficult to get to see, and I didn't get to meet him for the first time until Christmas. But it was a little awkward at first, but it was fine. They supported what he was doing, and so there weren't any real bad feelings or anything like that. And as far as their friends, they had a few friends when they lived in Germany, but Gay didn't have a whole lot of friends in her life. She was a real private person, and but like his friends that didn't know a whole lot about his story. They didn't know about his wife, when they moved back because his wife went to the nursing home, and then he was a loner. And, they knew he was married. Some of them knew the story and some of them didn't. But that was awkward because they knew him as a loner. And I think some of his friends that were women kind of had crushes on him because they were kind of a little perturbed that I was in the picture.
Yeah, I read that. But
really
you know what's
different.
so funny too? When I read that, I was like, see, that's why I don't like the whole I have girlfriends for like a man, because I feel like women are always gonna secretly want you or whatever, like you, even if he had no interest in them, obviously, right? Because he chose you, but
Right.
I feel like sometimes women, they like have these secret crushes on certain men and they're like, oh, he's my friend, but you're like, get out of here. I know you want my man. Like, I just can't. That's what I always think. So I'm always just like, I don't know about that. You might not want her, but I'm pretty sure she'll take you if you were like, hey, let's go,
Exactly. Yeah.
So I totally got, when you said that in the book, I was like, yeah, she's smart. She knows.
Yeah. So it was interesting, but like I said, if his family wasn't supporting him moving on and finding another partner, then I think it could have been very difficult.
Yes.
I mean, it was difficult with one of our grandkids, like I wrote in the book.
Yes, I saw that too.
Yeah, that was difficult. And, I understood where she was coming from. Those were her religious beliefs. But, I've done a few of these interviews, and it always comes back to this for me when people have asked me, what about death do us part? Eric he never abandoned her.
Right.
And he was her husband completely in the capacity that she needed him to be. There could have been nothing more, and he would have given her nothing less. He was there till she died. We were both with her when she died. And so it was her death to us part.
But I feel like she died a mental death. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like,
Absolutely.
He lost his wife the day that she left her mind, her sane mind, and left her body. That's when he lost his wife, to me.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why earlier when I was saying, everybody had to say their goodbyes when she was fading away.
Right.
Because that was the only way they get to say goodbye to the real gay. So absolutely. Matter of fact, I had just finished writing the book in September of 2011, and like around October time, I'm drawing a blank. Pat Robinson. I can't remember. Excuse me. I'm sorry. But a real big religious leader he had made a comment that he was pressured into taking back, but he had said, if you have a spouse that has Alzheimer's, and when they are mentally gone, you can move on. But he got pressured into retracting that statement. But that's exactly what you just said.
Yeah, I mean, I really do feel that.
When you're mentally not there, they're not there. But like I said, he was there in the capacity she needed him to be. He supported her. He made sure that she was in a good, healthy place and that she was being taken care of. He made all the decisions for her that she couldn't make anymore. And so he was a husband to her to the end.
Yes. And I got that from the book too. I feel like, he did his part. And it, that's got to be painful. Every time you go there, it gets worse and worse. And, just seeing her not being the same person that you used to know. I mean, I don't know how much one person can take of that, It's different.
Yeah. And that's why, that was another reason why I wrote the book. It's like a sort of permission for other people to feel like they can do that, because when you take on a partner like Eric did, yes, it was so that you're not so lonely and that you find some joy and happiness in your life again. But it's also that person is a support person for you. What that person goes through with you,
right?
Yes, it'll make your bond tighter, but that's support. That's another way of getting support in a way that maybe your children can't support you.
Definitely. And you talk about in the book keeping her memory alive in a positive way for Eric. Was that ever draining for you? Like when he would have memories of her and, you were being supportive and just being like, yeah, that's a great memory. And, helping him to just keep that memory in that positive space and not think about where she is now or how she is now or how she left this earth. But did that ever become like, oh gosh, I'm so sick of, like talking about these memories of her. And I'm just asking from a human side,
Right, right. No, not any more draining than anything else that was going on at the time, because that's the Gay I wanted him to remember. I didn't want him to remember, like you said, the woman in the nursing home.
Right.
I wanted him to remember, he would tell me a story and I'd say, that's the Gay you need to remember. And the day that she died, when he came, she looked like she was 100 years old when she died, and she was 54. Wow. For whatever reason, I don't know if it was the type of Alzheimer's she had or if she had something else going on, because they didn't do an autopsy. It wasn't my place to say anything, so I didn't bring it up. But she aged 50 years in that nursing home. From the time I met her, in those 3 years, she aged like 50 years. She looked like she was 100 years old. And Eric hadn't seen her in the last week, and that last week it really, really made her look totally different. And so before I was sitting with her, and when I got up to meet him at the door, I needed to warn him, don't panic. I don't want you to remember this Gay. And he was like, okay. So I've always wanted him to remember the good memories of her. But it's not, like I said, it's not been any more draining than anything else that I was doing at the time. And the Christmas before we moved out here to Germany, I had a little snowman plaque, because I'm all about Christmas, and it had a man and a woman. I used to hang it out in front of the house, and I took it to a painter and had her paint a little angel snowman, snow woman up in the sky, because that was Gay. And I just feel like she's always with us, so it's not real draining to me.
Right. Oh, that's beautiful, though. I like that. That's nice. It really is. Yeah. So how are you today? How are you and Eric today? Like, is life great? Is he still the love of your life? Is everything like on the up and up?
Oh, everything's so great. Yeah, it's so wonderful. And yeah, we've been through some hard times, but boy, if we can get through that, we can get through anything.
Yes.
So, everything's great. He has his moments, like with the release of the book and with interviews and certain bylines and certain stories that I've written for different people in different magazines. They always stir up both of our emotions. It's just a painful memory, even though it was, now it's 7 years ago. It's still very, very raw. And we just talked through it, and I just, like we just talked, I talked about, I try to encourage him to just keep remembering the good stuff and to forget about all the bad stuff.
Yeah, that's what you got to do. Take the good and leave the bad. That's it.
Exactly.
This is amazing. This is amazing. Again, the book is called Bleeding Hearts by Tami Reeves. It's an excellent read, and I encourage everyone to read it, because you never know what could happen in your life. You just don't know. And I think this is really a good book,
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I really do. So I read that you have another book coming out. Is that out yet, or are you still working on it?
Not yet. Not yet. I'm working on it. It's a little more difficult to write, because it's more lighthearted, and for some reason that's a little more difficult for me to write. Yeah. But like in the book, it talks about my weight loss. But this book is not necessarily about my weight loss journey. It's about the struggles you have afterwards. It's like you have these high expectations of how you should look, act, and feel, and you don't always do that. You still feel like you're still a fat person, and you're harder on yourself. So that's what the book's about. There's a million books out there about weight loss, but not a whole lot of books talk about the psychological or the emotional ramifications of losing so much weight.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a good one too.
Yeah, that's why it's easier being fat, because it is.
Yeah.
Much easier to be fat, but it is. Yeah. And I don't mean just the dieting, and it's easier.
Yeah, I'm sure. I know it is. It is. You have to eat right and watch what you're eating and work out and all this stuff. It's just a lot. It's a whole lot. Yeah. So the
much easier to eat chips.
Yeah. So have you learned to balance being a caregiver and taking care of everyone around you and also taking care of Tami? I just wanted to ask that because I noticed that in your book, you talk a lot about taking care of other people and being there for them. And in the beginning of your book, you were doing that to almost exhausting yourself. So I just want to make sure that you have gotten to a place where you have mastered balancing, taking care of others and also taking care of Tami.
Yeah, well, thank you for noticing that. And I have gotten better at it, but I really think, and this is just my belief, I believe we all have a gift. And I believe that we have certain things that we are supposed to accomplish in our life and be in our life. And mine's caregiver. And yes, and I think that that's part of what was damaging to my marriage before was I was the keeper of the relationship and of the family and the extended family. I was the keeper of everybody, and I was exhausted.
Yeah.
And yes, I have become much better at it. I think that part of the reason why I got so big was I was too tired to take care of me because I was so busy taking care of everyone else. So why would I care about what I ate and why would I exercise? So yes, I take care of myself much better than I used to.
Good. I'm so
Thank
happy
you
to
for
hear that. No problem. So before I let you go, I have to ask you, what was your oh hell no moment of the week? Did you have anything that happened where you just wanted to scream out, oh hell no?
Yes, today. It's kind of silly, but it has to do with the book. When I first published the book in 2015, it was on Amazon, and I did a second edition this August and had a re-release, media release, and I published through CreateSpace and Amazon. Then it goes on to Amazon, which they're sister companies. Well, everything's changed in CreateSpace. Once you redo the new publishing, they send everything to Amazon. But anyway, the mix-up was different computers. As you pulled up my book on Amazon, gave you the old edition. Then you couldn't get the book, and it was a nightmare. And I kept getting, emails from Amazon saying it's CreateSpace's problem, and I kept getting emails from CreateSpace saying it was their problem. And I finally sent them, and so I said, "Oh hell no!" And I sent them both the same email saying, "You guys fix this. This is what's going on." And tonight, I got an email saying your problem's been fixed. So yay!
Good for you. Sometimes you got to put your foot down.
Yeah. And I don't do that very well, and I don't do it very often, but I was done with this. I was done spending days on this.
Yes, that's right. So are you on Instagram? Are you on Facebook? Where can people, look you up and keep up with what you're doing?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. I'm Bleeding Hearts under my name as well, too. But I do have a Twitter account, and I do have Instagram. I'm just not real savvy with Twitter and Instagram, but I'm learning. But yes, I am on. I have a website, TamiReeves.com, and if you go to Amazon and put my name in the search engine, it's easier to find it than putting in Bleeding Heart. So if you just put in Tami Reeves, my book will pop up, and it's on Kindle or it's paperback.
Awesome. And that's Tami, Tami, Reeves, Reeves. And thank you so much, Tami, for sharing your story with us and for coming on the Oh Hell No podcast.
Well, thank you. And sorry about your family members, and I'll be praying for you guys.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. I appreciate that.